we watch the playoffs all week. I do it with one thing in mind. How can the Spurs mimic what I'm watching? And the takeaways I'm hearing, I don't believe. First of all, have you been seeing recently the super teams are dead? You seen that?
Yeah, that's the chatter around the water cooler right
Do you
now.
buy it?
Is it? It's. I mean, I think it depends how you define super team. Like, why can't we call the Nuggets a super team? You know what
I
mean?
would argue that they are, but
Right.
there's man-made and there's
Right.
created. They're man-made. I mean, they're created. They are drafted. They're formulated. They
Built,
are.
not bought.
They're not built, not bought. Much better term, probably better used by you. They are, but you can still end up the same way buying. I'm not saying
That's what
one's
I'm
better
saying.
than the other. I'm just saying one's probably a little bit more cost effective. But the Nuggets are built. The Spurs were built, but bought works. We just don't have anything that's working right now.
Are the Celtics a super team because they bought Derek White or they bought?
No,
Porzingis?
that's a built team. No, you get two superstars, you draft them, and then you surround yourself, and hopefully you find a third nearly superstar, maybe superstar. You don't have to have a third one, but you have to have one that's either wasn't on his way down or isn't and on his way up. But if you have those three things, that's the modern super team.
I just think that if we're defining super teams as you went out and got, because for that matter, like, what makes the Suns a super team? Beal and KD. Like, that's what puts them in the super team mold
With Booker,
right? But Booker is built. He's not bought. You know
I
mean?
know,
Like,
but that's what I'm saying.
No, it's like, why do we penalize them for Booker?
We,
Like,
we don't.
Not,
I'm not penalizing them, but it's a failure.
In that sense, so, like, to be clear here, I'm not defending the Suns.
Oh, I know you're not.
What makes the Suns more of a super team than the Clippers?
The wins.
What do you mean wins? Like, the Clippers are winning in the playoffs. Like, how are we saying the super
Playoff
team
wins
is dead when the Clippers are thriving?
Well, the
Mavericks
Clippers aren't thriving.
Kyrie is there.
The Clippers, I would argue, aren't thriving, but they are.
They won yesterday.
They
what
did,
are you talking about?
but I wouldn't say they're thriving in that win. I mean, they had a 31-point lead and gagged all the way to the finish, but they are winning,
fair.
and they won on the road, and they did it without Kawhi, and they did it because they have former superstars. I mean, James Harden was a revelation in the fourth quarter. He played phenomenally well.
I agree with you. All I'm saying is I push back against this. The super team era is dead.
Oh, it's not. It's not dead. I just don't know what.
The Suns built a bad super team.
Yeah,
that's all I'm willing to say.
Now,
what would the only truth here?
Okay, with the idea of how you build teams. So you have the built and the bought. When you apply where the Spurs sit, you have the opportunity to maintain with a built, at least with two of them. I think we can all argue that on his current course, given the current spotlight that will be on San Antonio, that Devin Vassell, unless he steps all over himself, will be an all-star next year. If he can stay healthy, if you just continue the current trajectory of improvement, that combined with the spotlight and Wemby's improvement, Devin will be an all-star. So it does all-star make you a super team? You have to be an all-star, 2 all-stars, right? Or is it more than that? You have to have all NBA, first, second, or third team. Let's define what a 3-player super team is. Pumbaa, define. Takes 3 to make a super team. 3 all-stars or 3 all-NBAs, or 2 all-NBAs and 1 all-star. Tell me what the super team makeup is before I want to find the line. Before we start assigning blame or responsibility.
I think what constitutes a super team is at least one of your main.
Okay. So that's
why I think. Right. That's why I think the Suns obviously fit that mold.
Yeah. Oh, obviously.
Right? Well, you're at least in their attempt, Beal and KD were superstars somewhere else. That's why I think the Celtics are a super team, because you have Porzingis. Porzingis is your third.
And I will give him under my definition of declining. At one point, he was all-NBA, wasn't he? Was he a third-team all-NBA type at one point? I think he might have been.
So, again, I think the Celtics would be a super team. Because to their credit, they've also developed their own players, and that's commendable. But and that's why the Clippers, obviously, with Kawhi and, Paul George and Harden. I mean, that one goes without saying. But so that being, but the Spurs have the potential to be, if we look at the like super team definition for teams currently in the playoffs still, the Spurs are most akin, I think, to the Nuggets and the Celtics, right? Like you have
your two
centerpiece, you have your Jokic or your Tatum,
right?
Like however, for each team, and then you have your Jaylen Brown or your Murray or whatever in Devin, and then you got to get your third.
So you got to go buy your third. You know what?
You got it. Yeah.
I think that how many of you guys agree with that? 656-3776, 656 ESPN. To become the super team, the Spurs actually have a couple pieces already. That we have the two built, and now it's time to buy. You're right, Claymore. It reduced by far, and let me tell you, I'll disagree about that. So that's a super team. Now let's reevaluate before we move on. For current purposes, the Celtics are a super team. RJ, yes.
Sure.
Anybody else close to that?
Anybody close to super teams?
Yeah.
Or
is Minnesota a super team? Rudy?
I think so. Yeah.
Big Cat.
Because Gobert. Yeah. You've got Ant, you've got Cat, and you've got Gobert.
Two built, one bought.
Yep. Yeah. If you have one bought of the three, but the one that you bought has to have been like, if Porzingis didn't exist in Boston as an example, Derek White can't be your third. Like I understand he's had a great run in Boston, but he wasn't a superstar somewhere else. Porzingis was. You get what I'm saying? Gobert was a superstar somewhere else. So that's why I think he checks the box of becoming one. So let me ask you, is there a playoff team that doesn't check? And
Oklahoma City. By far.
That's fair.
I mean, look at what's on Oklahoma City, Miami. By far. This is all
Miami too.
Well, I mean, Butler's a bot. Butler's a bot. Yeah. I'll give him that. But I mean, how long ago do you go from bot to build? I mean, Butler's been there a minute. But I
think that the takeaway is that you can't be purely built. You know what I'm saying?
It's almost impossible.
Like you have to have somebody bot. And because even the like lowest level bot that we're talking about here is what? I mean, maybe Porzingis. I mean, to your point, like there were some people that were kind of skeptical about him, and now he's a big part of what they're doing. And so you don't have to be the Clippers and be like purely bought. You know what I'm saying? But you have to have some semblance of serious money spent on an external person that was a superstar somewhere else.
Absolutely. And I think the success comes from that bot part, because you're buying the thing that fills the square, that fills out what you need. You go get that last piece and you get the perfect piece. And if you get that perfect piece, then you can go do it. Aaron Gordon for the Nuggets. Not a showpiece, but the perfect piece. Then you look at the collapse of a team like the Sixers, who are built. They drafted Maxey, they drafted Embiid, the process as long as it's been, but they never have been able to get the third. They've tried, they've looked, they've added Al Harrington here and there, but they couldn't maintain that consistent third. And they're done, man. They're cooked. And now Sixer fan is screaming for Embiid. Y'all better settle down, Brian, right? Time to call. Call while the sting is there, baby. Offer the soothing salve that is 4 number ones, 3 number ones, whatever it takes. They're tired of Joel Embiid. I'll take on some of that injury-prone giant MVP-ness. And I said it that way too. It sounded better in my brain.
You have to have a third person. You have to have that, because right now, who is that person? Right now, who feels? Because you got Wemby and Devin. Okay, cool. If you have to put
we don't have one.
That's what I'm saying. If you got to stand the camera up on a tripod, who is the third leg right now?
There's not one. But team as structured,
who would you shove in? Yeah,
it's Keldon by popularity, though by importance. Hey, I'm gonna put somebody out there that nobody's even. I think as the team went through this year, the most important cog in the whole machine was Chetty Osman, just because he was consistently there and offered the same thing every night. There was never a drop-off with Chetty. So if you're asking me, as the team was put together, the bot part last year was Chetty.
That's unfortunate.
It is. That's the reason that we're sitting in this position. But I would say, given what I've watched, and there was a great comment up there on the Brigade Bar. I didn't see it. Mike Beans, I believe it was, brought up the fact that as Wemby matures, the West is looking just brutal. There's no time to wait. Minnesota is a young team growing into it. Oklahoma City is the youngest team in history to be growing into it. San Antonio is just about to become the youngest team in history growing into it. And last I checked, Luka ain't 30.
Well, I mean, if I told you in the next decade that Denver,
Well, Denver's
Dallas,
I will tell you, Denver's got a clock. Denver's ticking.
Hear me out. No, but I'm saying in the next decade, it's 2034. You just woke up. All right, Rob, and the last 10 NBA champions included the Nuggets, the Mavericks, the Thunder, the Timberwolves.
Yeah.
Are you surprised?
No.
Are you surprised? Right.
Not at all.
So all four of these teams could totally win a title in the next 10 years.
Yeah, all four of them totally
whether it's
could.
one or multiple.
But I'll tell you this, only two of them will. Two of them will collapse, and one of them will remain mediocre. That's the way the league is structured, and that's what's going to happen.
Pessimistic.
No, that's just how the league works. I mean, two of them are going to collapse under their own weight, whatever that might be. Two of them are going to remain consistently on the top, and one's just going to stay hanging around the middle for whatever reason. That's the way the league is built. That's how it's designed, and that's how it's going to continue to be. And we didn't even include the Spurs in there, and they're going to be the reason for three of those teams doing what they're doing. I'm not sure what will be doing, but the Spurs are the wild card there as they continue to grow. But it is going to be that kind of knife fight. And how much do you pay attention to the rest of the West when you put together your team? Do you go, okay, this is what those guys have. I need a LeBron stopper. I need an OG Anunoby. I mean, remember those days when you'd go find that piece? Are we still in that day of going and finding the specific stopper or getter in this positionless game?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Because who are the five most dangerous players in the NBA? Let's just give me five.
Jokic, right now, Jokic, Ant-Man, top the list. Giannis when he's healthy.
Let's live in those
Luka,
and especially in the West. Jokic, Ant, Wemby.
Okay,
you're an
and
NBA
Luka.
GM.
Four of them.
Okay, and Luka. There's our fourth. And let's throw Giannis. Fine, here's five. You're an NBA GM. Rob, I need you to find somebody who can stop these guys. Who's there?
There you go. Okay. Well, sadly, you just named two, and they're already on the list. One, Giannis and Wemby. Yeah, they're not stopping any of these guys. You're right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't exist anymore because these dudes are cheat codes. You just have to hope that you have another cheat code and that you survive. That's really what it comes down to. I
will tell you this: the one thing that I have pulled away from this, and the Spurs could diverge on the fork in the road. And I don't know which one is the one less traveled. And I hope we don't have to look back and say, I'm glad I chose that one. But you either have to pull out of this offseason, one or the other. You're going to have to find an eraser or a bomber. There's no in between. You need to go, You need to find you're going to need to find somebody whose only skill is about 50% from the three. You don't even have to have great percentages while being covered. You're going to have guys that are wide open, but you're going to have to find that guy. Or you're going to have to go get an eraser. An offensive rebounds win playoff games. Offensive rebounds is one of those hidden things that you really don't pay attention to, but when you look at the stats, offensive rebounds win playoff games. As much as turnovers lose them, offensive rebounds win them. Or the defensive rebounding, maintaining possession. But that's secondary in this fast break game. I'm looking for an eraser, a dude that owns the glass, especially on the offensive board, that will erase mistakes, both offensively and defensively. If you can get one of those two, built or bought, I think that's the next step for the Spurs. Now, I have my own choices, but so does everybody else. What are yours?
I agree with that thought. You have to be fire or ice.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Pick it and go.
And yeah, you can't be both. And so you have to be elite at something. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're just trying to live in the middle of the Venn diagram, you're not elite at anything. And you're just treading water. So you have to have a strength, and that strength is going to be your weakness at certain points, certainly. but your hope and your expectation is that it's going to be the strength a majority of time, and certainly at least 4 times in a playoff series. And so that's just life. That's just math. I mean, there's no team, right? I mean, maybe Oklahoma City, maybe Denver, maybe Boston, obviously, that is like well-rounded. But, we're just in a different era of basketball. I mean, it's positionless. You have to adjust.
As the season concludes and you look at the fandom, obviously Phoenix fans should be standing at the gate with pitchforks and torches. I mean, this team, new ownership, and maybe, this is still in transition, but this dude bought into something that ain't working. Or New Orleans, a Pelican fan, watching. I mean, that team quit. I know that they know that there was no hope, but at least give it the college try. And then, you have Zion sitting on the side, mad, grumpy, hungry Zion, and your team just quit. I don't know which part of the fandom I feel worse for.
What do you mean?
The Pelicans got sold a bill of goods in Zion. I mean, I was on the front line there. Now I'm on the third line singing at the end at his funeral. I was on the first line when they drafted him. I thought he was a transcendent giant point guard that was going, does what he does when he's healthy. And he just didn't healthy enough. So I bought into that. I bought into the Brandon Ingram. I bought into CJ McCollum. I bought into all this stuff. And they continue to chip away. And some of it's your fault, some of it's my fault, some of it's nobody's fault. But here we sit. This team sucks. They just quit. I can't get my fat guy point guard power forward on the court. I can't tell if Brandon Ingram gives a crap or not. And my best 2 players are out of the trees. The kid from Alabama, Jones, and the kid from Georgia Tech. Those are the guys that show up, and those guys are afterthoughts. So if I'm a New Orleans fan, I don't know which way to turn. I look over and I'm at Phoenix. What have I got to look forward to here? Ain't nothing.
I would rather be a Suns fan than a Pelicans
Probably.
fan, no, because you tried. You know what I'm saying? Like you gave it a shot. You know what I mean? Like you can live with that. You know what I mean? You can make peace with that. Like, and it sucks that another team got lucky with Ant and that he's better than your core superstar that we talked about. Like, you have to have the core superstar, right? By the way, like, for Phoenix it's Devin Booker. For Minnesota now it's obviously Ant. So it sucks that one's better than yours. And it sucks that like he doesn't need as much around him for them to be better. That's just the way it goes. But at least they tried. I mean, New Orleans is in this weird spot. Like, after they won the Zion lottery, by the way, this is a different subject, but like, how thrilled do you think the Knicks are in hindsight that they didn't win that lottery and that they got put on the path that they're on? I mean,
I know. I mean, in hindsight, nothing from that draft turned out very well. None of those guys, none of those Kentucky
remember
guys.
How devastating it was?
It felt like
no,
all over. And what a great point. And here we sit. Sometimes what looks good ain't good for you. My old friend Greg Moore used to say it. And that looks so good, but it wasn't good for anybody. And then Jalen Brunson, this revelation, this basketball savant, it was just a brilliant performance. It was one of those that Knick fan, if they don't put him in the annals of Knick player, he's not going to get you a trophy. This team isn't good enough for that. I hate to break Knick fans' heart. There's just not enough there yet. And I don't know when they do finally get enough, if they can. But the performance that Jalen Brunson has offered them, he deserves to be put in the same sentence with Pat Ewing. Unfulfilled promise, but hopefully Jalen at some point can. But deserves to be put in there with Starks. It was as good a performance. Starks had the best and the worst performances I'd ever seen from a guard from the Knicks. Bernard King. I mean, Jalen Brunson has earned his way into that. And I was wrong. No, he wouldn't be him without Luka he sucked all the air out of the room, David.
So, on the subject of the Knicks, back to the superstar conversation.
Where are they?
They're purely. I'm sorry, they're purely built.
Yeah.
Right. Like who's the homegrown?
Well, no, they're truly bought.
I'm sorry, that's what I meant. They're truly bought. Like, but for some reason, so like when I think of the Clippers, and you tell me if you're the same. when I think of the Clippers, and some of it is the Kawhi of it all, honestly. But when I think of the Clippers, I just think, you know what I mean? Like it feels so bought. Like it feels like so.
Yeah,
you know,
it feels manufactured
like
and, and poorly constructed at that. It feels like old pieces and parts that, you're trying to hold it together and it's going to just collapse under its own weight.
Even though the Knicks are the same philosophically from a construction standpoint, it feels so much more authentic to me. And maybe that's just because it isn't Kawhi. Maybe that's because it's New York and I'm falling for it. Maybe it's the Garden. It's all that stuff. Like, and maybe it's because they're beating the Sixers. I really don't know, but it feels pure.
Oh, RJ, out of them, that was so perfectly put, because there is no more inauthentic team in any sport than the Clippers. The Clippers rival the Harlem Globetrotters as far as inauthenticity. When you think of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and Russell Westbrook and James Harden.
I'm not a system player. I am a system.
The four horsemen of inauthenticity over periods in their career. Now, all of them are skilled beyond belief. They're demigods. I mean, every one of them are these flawed superheroes. You couldn't be more inauthentic. They're the what's that series on Prime where it's the human superheroes that have the same normal people traits but are also super powered? The Boys, I think is what it's called. These are the boys. These, I mean, you want to talk about flawed superheroes? Every one of these cats.
I think there's just again, I don't want to read too much into it, but there seems to be a higher level of humility with the Knicks, and some of it is that their superstar status. And I think I'm being generous. Like Dante DiVincenzo wasn't a superstar in Milwaukee. You know what I mean? So he wasn't to say that they're to say that they're bought and Josh Hart, whatever. But Brunson is. They're growing superstars together.
How many? Here's the answer to your question. And I'm not talking to your average fan. I'm talking to superstar, I'm not talking to superstar fan. I'm talking to average guy driving to work right now. How many Knicks can you name?
I mean,
legit, off the top of your brain, how many Knicks can you name above and beyond Brunson?
Well, if your point is that the Clippers are more nameable because they're more bought, then I think that's well put.
Yeah, that's my point. I'm saying, they are built, but they're built by guys that are afterthoughts and specialists. Bought. They're afterthoughts and specialists is what they are. They're more like the New England Patriots and they're manufactured in ways that these guys are brought in to do exactly what they're good at and nothing more. And hats off to Thibodeau. That's how championship teams are built.
And they've just found the right amalgamation together to where it works.
And I want you to consider something as we head into break. This team got better when Randall got hurt.
The Ewing theory of all places.
And I'm a fan of Julius Randle. He's a Texas kid. I watched him play in high school, but much like Minnesota got better the moment that Karl Anthony Towns got hurt. And I hate to pat myself on the back, but when the moment he went down, I told everybody, look, this team ain't going to miss him a bit. And Naz Reid became the sixth man of the year. The moment that Julius Randle went down, the vacuum that he was went away, and Jalen Brunson was free to be that. Now, the best thing that could happen is add Randle back to this mix. Just like when you added Karl Anthony back and he got to sit and watch. Say, you know what? I'm expendable here. I better fill in the gaps, or I'm still getting paid, but I'm going to be watching a lot of basketball instead of playing a lot of basketball. I think Randle might finally get the comeuppance here. Finally, dude, you got to understand that you are not the center of the universe here.